those who don't know the famous Vance Bennett, you're going to be in for a treat. Because a little bit about how you and I met, and I just want this to be a conversation. This is just between you and other people are going to see this, and they're going to be able to get a lot more out of it. If you and I we're just natural. It's just having a conversation, you being you, me being me. So yeah, a little bit about how a little bit about you and how I met is so Vance is my brother-in-law. I married his sister, and Vance is from my knowledge, my wife always talks about how like growing up, you've always been into entrepreneurship. You've always been into selling something, whether it was like phones, right? You were selling phones for
Yeah.
a second. You were always selling your mom on ideas. You always had some crazy idea. Um, and now getting to the current day, you're going into business, washing trash cans, starting up this business, and looking to make that a big business now. And so I think you have a lot of big things in store. You're what, 22?
21.
21 years old, just a
Yeah.
young buck. But I'm pretty sure that's what age Mark Zuckerberg was when he got started as well.
Oh, that's good luck.
So, um, so why don't we do this? Why don't you? I just gave kind of an overview. I wanted to ask you about growing up. How did you get into selling things? Would you call it entrepreneurship? Would you call when you were growing up? Would you just say you like to sell things? Tell me a little bit about you growing up.
So, when I started selling phones and doing stuff like that, I lived in Arizona, and I had two buddies, Caden and Colby. They were twins, and they were always doing that kind of stuff, buying dirt bikes, fixing them, selling them, like making money. They both got phones, and I wanted a phone. And in my family, like, I come from a big family. I have seven siblings, so if you wanted something, you needed to buy it. And so at age 11, no one wanted to hire me, so I had to work for myself. I'm the only one that would hire me. So I was always just thinking of little things that I could do to make money. Um, I always wanted to do like a popcorn stand or a lemonade stand, but for some reason never did. It never worked out. And like I don't know why. We always lived in farther out places, so it's harder to make it happen when there's not a lot of traffic. So I started looking into other stuff. So how I got into phones was one of my buddies broke his iPod fourth generation when those were cool, and he got a brand new one, and so he just left his there, and I was like, dude, if you're just gonna leave that in your drawer, you should give it to me. And he was like, all right, it's destroyed, like it won't even turn on. And so I got it and got a new screen, and got on YouTube, watched how to make it work, put it back together, and that's how I started. I was like, oh, that wasn't so hard. So I sold it, and then I got on eBay, and I had one of those Walmart prepaid cards that I got my dad to set up, so I could just go to Walmart and put cash on that card. So that's how I was able to buy stuff on the internet. And then I'd buy broken phones off eBay and then sell them on Craigslist, and that's how I started doing phone stuff.
That was at 11.
Yeah, 11 and 12, somewhere in there.
Wow. And how many like how many phones were you able to sell? Like was this like one phone a month, one phone a week? What were you doing?
Um, it wasn't. I wasn't super consistent at that age. It depended. I'd just watch online
Okay.
until I found a good deal, something that I wanted, and then I'd buy one or two, three sometimes, and then I'd post them on Craigslist, and they would sell right around Christmas time was when I'd have the best luck. So I'd sell, five or six right around Christmas, and things would slow down for a little bit. So it
Mm,
was up and down, but it was enough money for a 13 year old to have fun with.
for sure. How much money do you think you made like between all the phones?
Probably not more than 2,500.
Okay. But
You know,
that's quite a bit for
yeah, it
being a
was a
little
lot.
kid.
I was able. always able to have a nice phone as well, like upgrade and have a pretty new phone and go do the fun stuff I wanted to.
For sure, for sure. What do you think were like the biggest lessons you learned from doing that? Maybe you didn't realize it in the moment, but now looking back, like how what have you been able to learn from
I got scammed once.
that?
So I was pretty excited. This guy offered me like $300 for this phone that was worth about 150, and he wanted me to ship it to him. And at that age, I got the confirmation email from PayPal, and I was like, "Oh, this is legit." I'm really gonna make like $300. I think I paid like $75 for the phone. So I was like, "Man, this is crazy. This is awesome." And I shipped it to the guy, and it was a scammer. I lost the phone. Um, and in the moment, I was like really mad and mad at myself because like it was like way too good to be true. The fact that I gotten suckered into it. But it was good to just have that experience and realize that there's those people in the world. There are people that are just out to try and take your money and that aren't honest. Because growing up, I was always pretty honest. Like I wasn't a good liar, and so it was good to realize that there are people that aren't like that. And then I remember working on a phone once, and I broke something. Like broke it, like it was over. And then I decided I wasn't going to go into the medical field because with that, like oh dang, I lost that phone. But like dang, what if that was somebody's wife? Because you're basically doing surgery on a phone, taking stuff out, moving stuff around, putting it back together. And when I was tired and wanted to take a little break, after working on something, I could go grab a drink of water, take a 20-minute break if I wanted to, or if I needed to go to school or whatever. But if you were working on somebody's heart, you couldn't really do that.
That's you really thought that way? You're like, because I wasn't able to work well on this phone, I'm not gonna go into being a surgeon or something.
Yeah, I remember how frustrated I was. Then I was like, dang, like I don't know why, but right in my head, right that moment, I decided I was like, you know what? I was like, I'm not going to go in the medical field. That is not something that I want to deal with. I want something that I could always fix. So if I really wanted to, I could buy different parts, buy a new motherboard or whatever I broke and make that phone work.
Mm,
I just don't like things that like there's no way to succeed. Like once you've gone to a point, there's no way to make it work.
for sure, for sure.
And when one dies, you can't really bring it back.
Yeah, that's funny. Um, and so you did phones, and one of the lessons you learned was getting scammed. Funny story. When I was moving out on my own for the first time, I was looking at places to live, and I don't think I told you this story before. That I was looking at places, and um, and there was a place. It was like half as much as all the other places. That's how it always begins. Well, I'd never been scammed before, so I was like, "Oh, that's so awesome! Half as much." It was like these like two grandparents are like, "Oh, we're going out on a service mission, and and we just barely left or something like that. So you can just leave the money, drop the money off at this place, and we'll leave the keys at this place, and you can have the apartment as soon as you do that." I'm like, "Oh, sweet! I need an apartment right now." Yeah, and so I'm dating Jessica at that time, who's now my wife, and I call her up because I wanted to check and see. I'm like, "Hey, should I go through with this?" She didn't answer. I call her up again. She didn't answer. I text the guy. He's like, "Hey, it's now or never, man." I'm like, "Oh man, I really need to do this." So I start driving over to Walmart to deposit the money. It's like 1,000 or 2,000 bucks. And and then Jessica calls me back up. She's like, "Wait, what? They're saying this?" She's like, "That's a total scam." I'm like, "How do you know?" She's like, "Did you say that they had bad grammar?" I'm like, "Yeah, but I didn't want it to be true." And then I almost gave up that 1,000, 2,000 bucks.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
funny.
once you do it once, it doesn't happen twice.
Yeah, yeah. It's a good lesson to learn. But whenever you see bad grammar and a deal that's too good to be true, um, it probably is.
Yeah. The skill to be able to learn why. If something's a really good deal, to figure out why it would be, because people don't just throw things away. Like, why are they giving such a good price? Are they in a bind? Is the market bad? What is it? Because you can find deals and
Sure.
things that are legit, like too good to be true. Like, it's crazy, but like 9 times out of 10, if it's too good to be true and you can't find a reason why, it's probably too good to be true. Like,
What
it's not
what have
real.
what have been some of those deals that you found throughout your life that have been too good to be true, but you ended up going through with them and they were really good?
Phones on eBay, I could buy them for like $20, even working ones, and then sell them for like $120 on Craigslist, just because people didn't like buying things online. And so they would be completely functional, you just got to know what to look for. So technically, people would say, a phone for $20, like that's, I mean, it was like an iPhone 4 or an iPhone 5 back then, which those were, I think the 5 was the newest phone. So I was selling iPhone 4s, and I could get them for as cheap as like $100. I mean, like $20 sometimes.
Wow.
With Yeah, which is like crazy, too good to be true, but it's just because there were so many on the market at that time, and
Mm,
everyone was wanting the newest. And so on eBay, the market was really good, and then on Craigslist, because I was in a small town, um, people didn't use the internet, and there wasn't very many phones on Craigslist for sale, so people would buy it from me.
gotcha.
So it just depends. Well, if you're buying something from somewhere else, another country, another place, another town, for a lot better price, and going to a market that's higher and selling it, like that's so like a deal, like it's too good to be true, but it's not, because in that place, that town, wherever you're doing it, for some reason, there's a lot better market for it, so it's a lot cheaper. And then you take it to a place where there's less of it, and it's more valuable.
More less supply, a little bit more demand. Okay. And why did you get involved in that in the first place? Did you say why did you start doing it? Was it for the money? Was it hobby? What was it?
Yeah, it was because it was a way that I could make money, like I mentioned at the beginning.
Yeah.
I was
Oh
the only
yeah.
one that would hire myself, so
Okay.
to be able to do the things that I wanted to do. And I don't know, honestly, I've thought back why, but always on my mind was like I wanted a way to make money from, I would say, like 9 years old on. I was always trying to find a way that I could make some money to go do something. And even younger, I had a little like bank, like a little box bank, that I'd put my money in, and it would count it for me and everything. Like, my whole life.
Yeah,
I'm not sure why
for
exactly, but I just was looking for ways to make money.
for sure. What would you usually do with that money? Because I know today, like the culture is money is bad, and people that make money are bad, and people that want to make money are bad. Why do you want to make money, and what do you use it for?
So money is just another form of freedom. If you don't have money, it's hard to go places, and it's hard to help people. So I always like being the one that could pay for everybody. You go out to eat, you go grab something, and I enjoyed covering other people. Like, it just made me happy. And I hated when I had to ask other people for money, even if it was my parents. Like, I just hated it. So it was just the freedom that came from it. And something that my uncle told me was like, money doesn't make you something, it just amplifies who you are. So if you're a really good person and you get lots of money, then it amplifies the good you can do. And if you're a bad person, like, it amplifies the bad you can do. And definitely there's more harder choices, like once you do have money, because when you don't have money, it's just not an option. You don't have to make the choice.
Sure.
But once you do have money, you are pulled in directions to do, not so good stuff, as well as to do good stuff.
Mm.
So it's just whatever you focus on.
Yeah, I
Right.
I think I think we're on the same page, 100% there. What would you say as far as or here's my next question actually. after selling phones, you did that until you were about 13 or 14, you said?
Yeah.
What did you do after that to make money?
So I moved to St. George, and the market wasn't good. Um, like in my little town in Kingman, I could sell a bunch of phones. Here in St. George, it just wasn't the same.
Wait,
So,
so you were selling them online, but it was to local people in Arizona,
so I'd
in
sell it on
Kingman.
Craigslist, which is like Facebook Marketplace.
Okay, and they would come in person, pick it up, and so it wasn't
Yeah,
like you were shipping it to somewhere else.
exactly.
Okay.
Because
Okay, that makes
I was
sense.
taking advantage of the people that didn't like to buy things offline, like order it and pay for it. They like to have it and see it
Gotcha.
before they bought it.
Gotcha. That makes sense. Okay. So then you moved to St. George.
Yeah, I moved to St. George, and I'd also become a licensed ref while I was in Arizona. And I was licensed to ref in the 48 of the states, which was cool. Took a bunch of tests, and like it was Caden and Colby, my two friends that got me into that. And so every Friday and Saturday, I would go ref soccer and make money that way. And so when I came to St. George, I tried to do that as well. But in the city of Washington, you have to be 16 to have a job. And so even though I was licensed because the sports here were city and not club, I couldn't ref. So that was
Mm,
kind of a bust. So I was looking for work, um, and I didn't have really much of a source of income at first. But then when I turned 15, no, I think I just turned 16. Um, and like I do like small things here or there, yard work for people in the ward, like stuff like that. That's kind of how I made money, but nothing really organized. It was just looking around word to mouth. And when people needed some labor, I would go do that. But when I turned 16, I went and worked for I started repping because I could rep for a little bit, and that's something that I knew. And I did that for one season, but then I didn't. It wasn't very much money. Like I made more money when I was in Arizona repping, and I got offered a job at U-Haul because I was going to pick up a truck. Because I got two broken trucks and I was going to put them together and make one, and I did make that happen. It was an adventure, and that at U-Haul, the guy saw that I was doing that, and he was like, "Look, like we're looking for another guy that knows how to back up trailers and move stuff around," and like offered me a job. So I started working there, and then my other brother-in-law, um, Connor, he and my older sister were working at a factory, and so I went and worked with them just to be with them for a little bit, and I worked there for a couple months and moved up the ladder pretty quick there. I like managed like 5 people under me.
mm.
Um, But then again, it was doing the same thing every day, and it doesn't pay very good. So I quit both of those jobs and started working for someone that had helped me work on my truck because he owned a headlight restoration business as well as a paint business. And then I ended up managing the headlight restoration business when he got a paint shop, and he grew that. And then I went on my mission.
Man, that's so you're doing just like jumping from thing to thing to thing to thing, which I feel like would have its pros and cons. I could see some of the pros being um, that you learn from a lot of different industries, right? Do you
Yeah.
feel, yeah, what do you feel like you learned from that experience of just being in a lot of different jobs, a lot of different industries?
The biggest thing that I felt like I learned was every time when I went and told the company that I was going to quit, I was going to go somewhere else, they all offered me a raise. And so it helped me realize my value because I saw a lot of my friends that worked all through high school at the same job and never got a raise. I mean, maybe they got like 50 cents or a dollar. But I wouldn't leave a job. One thing my uncle told me is like, don't leave a job until you have a better one. And like that's good advice, and something that I decided one day after my boss had yelled at me and I just wanted to quit. I was like, this is a dumb job, like technically I have another one. It was when I was working at U-Haul and the factory at the same time. What I decided that I wouldn't quit a job on a bad day. Like, because when you have a bad day, you're not thinking straight and you might make a dumb choice. Like, you're just not in the right mindset. So I waited another month and a half and then I gave my 2 weeks. at that job because I wanted to make sure, I wasn't making a dumb choice. And that's helped me, especially when I did summer sales after my mission. Those days where you just wanted to go home and no one was answering or everyone was yelling at you. I just had that determination that I'd never quit on a bad day.
Yeah.
And that's what helped pull me through. Um, Trying to think what else. Benefits. Just getting to know lots of people, making connections, and not becoming too reliant on one thing. Because if you work the same job your whole, it was only like 2 years, but when you're in high school, that's a long time. You become dependent on it and scared to try something new. But because I was always doing another job, I knew that if something happened, like there were more opportunities, there was more out there.
Mm-hmm. You talked about your uncle several times giving you advice. Is this the same uncle or is this different uncles?
Yeah, it was Uncle Tracy.
Okay. What I know Uncle Tracy. I know what you're talking about. He's a really cool guy. What were you jumping on phone calls with him? Like how was he helping you with maybe more specifically with entrepreneurship or with business, kind of those. Well, how is he helping you out?
So at lots of different times in my life, he was around. Like when we lived up in Cedar and Parowan area, and we're building that cabin, he came and helped us do all the electrical work when I was like 7, and so he taught me how to, hook up the solar, do a lot of electrical work. And then when I was 12, no, I was 11 or 12, somewhere around there. We built a lie detector together where we ran like a 9-volt battery backwards through a transformer, so it takes it from 9 volts back to 120 volts, and it only zaps you when you let go of the button. And so it was just a lot of fun. Gives you a good shock. And it's funny because his last name is Shock. But so doing stuff like that, and then he talked to me about investments, things that I could make. I made a couple investments with him, just small stuff, nothing big. And then he was always talking about business stuff. He was a police officer, that's what he did. But he done a lot of studies, and those kind of people that learn a lot but don't quite act. Like he did act on some things, but not on all of it. And so yeah, I think he got into it in his later years, so he wasn't quite, he already had his lifestyle set up, but he wished he would have done it when he was younger. So he put a lot of time and effort into giving, like saying like, oh, I wish I would have done this when I was your age. I wish I would have done that. And so it was just when we went and visited him or he came and visited me. But we didn't talk on the phone very often.
Sure. But when you guys did get together, then he was really helpful there.
Yeah. Or if I had any issues with anything, I could call him up.
Yeah. Yeah. And it wasn't just like business or life advice. It was also just like practical things, working with your hands.
Yeah, we built a lot together. I helped him build a bit, like a work shed in his backyard,
Yeah.
like a shop type thing. And then a couple other things. What else did we do? Dang, I remember we built something. I can't remember what it was. Well, yeah, he took me shooting for the first time. Just a lot of things like that.
Yeah.
Took me out on quads, and dirt bikes, and stuff like that.
Yeah. That's really cool.
Yeah.
And so then you go on your mission, the mission for the church, for your church, and going on a mission, you're talking with people every day. It's kind of like summer sales, which you did after you came back after being on a mission for 2 years. Then you did a summer of summer sales. Walk me through kind of what were some of the lessons that you learned on your mission, and then also doing summer sales, as far as like applying that to now your current business, going into your current business. How are you going to take those lessons and apply that?
So something that happened during my mission was COVID. and it really threw a wrench in what I thought my mission was going to be like. Like I set a goal at the very beginning of my mission that I would never spend a full day in the apartment. Didn't matter how sick I was, didn't matter, like what was going on, I would always get up and go out and work. And then I ended up spending more than half my mission in my apartment every day. But I learned to make the best of of the situation when there's certain things that you can't control. Like when you set a goal, you want to do everything you can to reach it. But then when that goal becomes impossible, from things out of your control, like COVID, I would get locked up if I went and tried to accomplish my goal. Then to not give up on the main goal, because my goal wasn't just to go work; it was to help other people come under Christ. So even though I'd set a smaller goal, which was still a big goal to attain my purpose, um, I didn't give up on my purpose just because I couldn't achieve my goal. I found different ways to do it by using technology, through Zoom, through Facebook, even though it wasn't as successful as I wanted it to be. We still did have success. We still had a baptism. We still made it work. And just learning to be okay with things that you can't quite control and focusing on what you can control. Getting up on time, even if you're just sending random friend requests on Facebook, trying to get people to listen to you, doing what you can even when it seems small. And then once I got to Peru, because my first part of my mission, I served in Washington, D.C. It was a crazy time with COVID and elections, which Trump and Biden. It was crazy.
Yeah, weren't you at you were at the inauguration? I'm just kidding. I thought I saw you on TV, like waving some flag around or something.
Yeah, no, it was crazy. Lots happened. Our van got shot. It was pretty funny.
What?
Well, it was at our apartment. Yeah, I've got a picture of my tag right next to the bullet hole.
Wow.
Yeah, it was crazy. Well, it technically wasn't our van. It was the other set of elders' van.
Okay.
But we were in the same complex.
Okay.
We were just a couple floors up.
Dang.
It was crazy. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, and then you went to Peru.
Yeah, then I got to Peru, and it was like a 360 change. Or it was a 180 change. I got there, and all of a sudden I could go outside. We could go talk to people. The COVID restrictions were a lot different. We had to wear 2 masks instead of 1 mask, but we could basically go do everything else that we wanted. And so I went from having, 1 baptism, which that's not the success of a mission, but that's one way that it's measured. And yeah, from 1 baptism in 16 months to like my first month there, I think we had like 7 baptisms.
Wow.
And it was just like a huge change. Like people wanted to listen to what we had to say. We could actually go out and teach them and help the youth and do a lot more. But there was one little problem. I couldn't speak Spanish. So when I first got there, it was very humbling. I went from like being confident in leadership positions, like not really having to stress about anything anymore. Like I knew the ropes. Nothing was really new, to going to Peru where everything was new. I didn't even know, like I went in the bathroom and there was no toilet paper and I didn't know what you call toilet paper, so I came out with a little cardboard roll. It was like, hey, do we have any more of this, Like it was humbling for me and frustrating at the same time because I had to rely on other people. Like, if it wouldn't have been for my companion, I would have been lost and probably died there, And it was crazy. And I remember being really down, like I felt useless. Like I was like, why am I here? Like at least, in DC, I might not have had the same success, but at least it was, partly my success. I was a part of it. I was making it happen. Here, I'm just like a fly on the wall. And I was thinking about it, and I wanted, like, it just came to my mind, like, let's see how fast you can rebuild what you once had. Like how much faster it took you 16 months to get to where you were in DC. Let's see how fast you can get there. And then it just changed my mindset. It was a goal instead of being frustrated, like, oh man, stuck here, like I lost everything that I had. It was how fast can I get back what I had and more. And it was insane how fast it happened when I had that kind of outlook. Like by 6 weeks there, I could communicate pretty well, like all the basic things that I needed. I wasn't completely reliant on anybody. And then by 3 months there, I felt like I could laugh and joke, and it felt weird speaking English because I never used it. There was no one there that knew English, so there wasn't really an opportunity to use it unless I was talking to my family on Mondays. And so when I talked to them, I'd be talking all slow and like forgetting things, and it was like so weird how fast I was able to not only gain a language but friends and leadership and all of the above, and trust of the members and my leaders, and become who I was in DC. Like all I really needed to change was my language and learn the culture a little bit more, and I was able to do that. But in the moment, right when I got there, I felt like I'd lost everything, and I feel like that can happen in business as well. Say you lost, your business and all the money you had, it'd feel like you lost everything. But technically, that's just a small part of what you gain over the time of growing a business. Like the money in the business is great; it's a good outward like sign of success. But if you lose that, like it'd be a lot personally. I'd rather lose that than lose who I became. Because if I lose the business, well, I built it once, I can build it again, and it'll be a lot faster because I already know the ropes. But if you lost who you were, then you would lose the business eventually, and you wouldn't be able to bring it back. So that was something good to learn for me, realizing that who I am is a lot more valuable than whatever possessions I have or popularity or leadership or all of that. That can all come back really fast.
Gotcha. Gotcha. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Um, and during your mission, you did have a lot of leadership roles, right? Um,
Yeah.
why? Let me ask you this first. Why do you think so many people like you? Like you're just a likable guy. Like people just naturally gravitate to you. Why do you think that is?
I don't know. Um, I try my best to be honest. Like if someone says they never lie, then they're lying. Just because it's impossible not to never lie. Like someone can tell you something and you believe them, and you tell someone else, and technically you lied because the person that told you lied was lying to you. So I try and be an honest person, and I know that makes a big difference. Like if you can trust someone, it's a lot easier to like them. Um, but I'm not perfect, and I don't know, something that more recently changed is like it was part of me, but unconsciously. Like it's got to be a win-win or no deal. Like if it's not a win for somebody else, like I genuinely don't want to do it. Like if they're gonna suffer for me to have a win, like if it's someone that I care about, then I don't want that. Like I don't want to do business if it's a win lose. And so I feel like that's people can sense that.
Mm.
That might be another thing, but I don't know. What do you think? It's a good
Um,
question.
well, I mean that's why I'm asking you because you're the professional on it. I think I think that it has to be something else because I think a lot of people have honesty or think win-win no deal, and people don't gravitate the same way towards them as they do towards you or some other people I'm thinking of. I think it's something. I think it's something in your personality, something in your presence that's just like inviting, something about the way that you not only physically present yourself, but like with your smile, your like the words that you say. It's just like encouraging people to like I don't know. I don't know what the science. I was trying to get more out of it from what you thought, but
I haven't asked myself that question. which is funny, but I haven't really thought about it. Well, that's something that I will think more about and
Yeah.
do, and just pay more attention to it. There's a lot of things that if you're just not looking for it, you can't see it.
I think a lot of people would want to know what that is, including myself, so that we can duplicate it and do the same things that you're doing, that I know a few other people do, to that people just like. And there are some people that like, you and I both know people. Everybody knows a few people that's like, everyone just likes this guy, or everyone just likes this girl, and they're the most popular, not because they have tons of things and people want to get something out of them, just because, I don't know, there's something about them and everybody wants to be around them.
I'm gonna write that down because I wanna. That would be something very valuable to be able to duplicate.
Yeah, yeah, it would be really cool, not just like definitely duplicating it for friends and things like that, to like give to your friends, but also in your business. Let's say you create a business, and we're going to get to this in a second, with trash cans, and you're going to have salesmen and things like that. Imagine if you can duplicate that with your salesman, or you know the qualities to look for in a salesman, and it's this, and this. And then you're like, okay, here are the qualities that I need for a salesman.
Yeah, that would be really valuable in
And
lots of different ways.
do you think that I mean, we don't know exactly what it is, so maybe this isn't a question that we can answer right now, or that you can answer. But do you think that all these skills that we're talking about, um, do you think that it's nature or nurture? Meaning, do you think that people are born with these talents and these skills, or do you think that they've been developed, or some mixture of 60-40, or what's your philosophy on that?
I know that some people naturally have more skill in every industry, like in sports, it's a good example. But at least in high school sports, 9 times out of 10, the person, like, say in ninth grade, one kid is naturally tall, one kid is naturally skilled, just athletic, he's the all star. And then there's a kid that's not so athletic, barely makes the team. The senior year, a lot of the time, that kid that wasn't so good will lock down and just make it happen over the next 4 years, just work his butt off, work way harder than everybody else, and learn the technique. And then he will usually be able to beat that person that has a lot of natural skill just because he knows how to turn it on and turn it off. And he knows the science behind it. A lot of people that are naturally gifted don't know why. They can't tell you how it works
Mm.
or how to get there. They're just like, you just do it, but that's not true. They can just do it because they've been naturally good at it their whole lives. But if somebody that is naturally good can take, that same work ethic and learn the science behind it, then they can become incredible. And that's how you get like NBA athletes,
Mhm.
um, people that have mixed both the natural skill and um, the science behind it and the work ethic. So I feel like everything can be learned. That's my opinion. Like, I mean, you can't get taller, but there's always a way around it, and anything can be learned. Um, Now, how fast or how successful, will you ever be able to be like Michael Jordan? Like, no. But could someone that's 5'5" that really wants to dunk, do the workouts and the exercise and learn the science behind it and learn to dunk? Yes, I believe that, like 100%.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter, you don't have to be incredibly gifted if you can find someone or find the science behind it. And it's a lot easier if you can find someone that's already done it. So we're able to do the research or find some people um, that have done the research of why people like other people, like what you do. Um, it's a fine line because salesmen, generally can get people to like them and trust them, but it's hard for them to have long lasting relationships because it's all just a game to them. They know if they do this, they get this. And then it's hard for people to trust them.
Mm.
And not all salesmen, but there are a lot of salesmen that, can gain someone's trust on the door and get them to love them, but they can't, keep a friendship alive for more than a couple of weeks just because they know that they're always looking out for number one.
For sure. For sure. Do you think the same thing applies um, in sports as it does in business? So you talked about it'd be really hard for you and I to be Michael Jordan, right? So to give you an example, in the NFL, there are about 2,000 players. Okay, there are about 2,000 billionaires in the world. How What do you think is harder to do, to become an NFL athlete or to become a billionaire?
Personally, it depends what cards you're dealt
Okay.
because if you weigh 110 pounds and are 5'5", then getting into the NFL is basically impossible.
You could be a punter
You could be a punter, yeah. There,
or a
how many
kicker.
punters are there? How many kickers are there?
True.
The odds. It's just a lot harder. It's possible though. I believe anything's possible. So I believe it just comes down to how bad you want it. I feel like um, it'd be like the same thing if you were born in somewhere like South Africa to become a billionaire. It would be really, really hard. Just like being 5'5", 100 pounds would be really hard to get into the NFL. Impossible? No. Like I believe anything's possible if you really put your mind to it and you really want it. And I've been really blessed. Um, but I feel like when I'm out looking for something, when I'm working for it, it tends to come to me. Like so often, if you're just sitting at home doing nothing, then nothing's gonna come to you. But when you decide you're gonna go do something, you'll go out and try and do it. And sometimes you won't succeed in that one thing, but another opportunity will pop up.
Mm.
Like if you're out looking for it, because it's not like we came from a super successful family. Like I have 7 siblings. Uh, like my dad dropped out of college and worked for Apex. That became Vivint. I've been with that job my whole life, longer than I've been alive. And it's been enough to take care of us and live a good life. But it's not like we were wealthy or you know he was a business owner or anything like that. Which I feel like being born into a family that's very business orientated, like it's a hit and miss. Like sometimes, yeah, the kids will want to get into business and stuff like that, and then other situations, they're like, you know what, I'm not gonna have anything to do with business. Or you're really successful and your kids just become lazy, because they don't ever have to do anything. So I don't know. It's very beneficial to have contacts, people that are in business, people you can talk to. But I feel like if that's something you want, then you will find other people that want it as well and that are farther down the road. If that's something you're looking for, something you talk about, something you bring up, then it'll surprise you how many people in the world around you are somewhat in that same field that just don't talk about it.
Mm.
And if you're brave and you're talking about it, you're looking for it, then I believe just about anywhere, especially here in the United States, because there's so much freedom for business and stuff like that. That if it's something you want and you go out and look for it, then yeah, anybody could become a successful millionaire. And if you really, the difference between a million and billionaire, personally, is just how bad you want it. Like I feel like a lot of people, are making millions and they just settle. And so it just depends on how bad you want it.
How much would you want to have when it's all said and done?
See, I don't have the answer to that question yet.
Okay.
I go back and forth, where I'm like, you know what? I just want to become financially free, making good money, have some big real estate, and then, go and do other things. And then the other part of me is like, you know what? I should just put in a couple more years, put in 5 or 10 more years and really take it to the next level. And then go out and do other stuff or find an in between where I'm still able to take my business and other businesses to the next level as I'm doing humanitarian aid stuff, going on vacation, spending time with my family, just finding a way to do both.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Which I believe that's what I'm leaning more towards is finding a happy in between where I can grow my business and other businesses and invest and grow that as well as living the lifestyle that I want.
That makes sense. And that's really interesting. Did you say, going back a little bit, did you say South Africa on purpose? You know who's from South Africa, right?
Who?
Elon Musk, the richest
That's my
the
I
richest
didn't
man
know
in the
that.
world.
That is
Yeah,
awesome. See, anybody, I believe that like 100%. Anybody can do it. It's hard, and some people, but sometimes the harder situation you're in, the tougher it makes you. So the better, the more you will succeed. Because if you're born in like a soft situation, then when something hard comes down, then you give up. But when you're in a really tough situation, another country where you don't speak the language, but at least I had a companion and people to help me in an organization. Like that's a soft area for being in a new country, but it still was tough. And then when I went and did summer sales, I was like, you know what? I live in another country, learned a new language, did all this other stuff. Like it's, summer sales is tough, but it's not so bad. Like all I
yeah,
have to do is talk to people, like knock on doors. Sure, I get yelled at, but that's not so bad.
yeah. So, so do you think? I just want to ask you this one more time to see. Do you think it's harder to become a professional athlete or a billionaire? Because you said it depends, but let's just say the average person. What do you think is harder?
I would probably say to get in the NFL, just because in business, it all depends on you. And like it depends on, how hard you work, how bad you want it, how smart you work, what you're willing to do to accomplish it. And it's for the majority of it, it's in your control. Like I would say almost all of it's in your control. Like even when things go south, you know, things fall upside down, you can always learn from it and you can always turn it into a win if you don't give up. But an NFL player, if he blows out his knee or gets a concussion while he's playing college football, then like his body won't function.
Yeah,
Like it won't work.
yeah,
It's impossible. Like you can have surgery, you can have all this stuff,
yeah.
but sometimes it just won't heal the same. So I would say it's easier to become a billionaire.
That makes a lot of sense. You have injuries at any time for being an athlete. It's also a job. So let's say you are the better athlete, but they just like somebody else more. And so that you don't get the chance in high school or college or the NFL because it's dependent on somebody else.
On
Where,
politics.
yeah, or politics. Um, and uh, whereas with business, there are so many different avenues you can go down. It's not like it's just one path. You can go into any different industry. There are hundreds of and thousands of different industries you can go in.
Look at me,
And
I'm cleaning trash cans.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And then you go from cleaning trash cans to investing to starting up another business and you can go into all these different industries. Whereas Yeah, I agree with you there. And then something else with that that I just thought of is not only um uh oh crap, I lost my train of thought. Um Son of a gun. Yeah, I lost it. It'll come back in a second. But yeah, I agree. Oh, that I would love to look up the numbers on this, but 50 years ago, I bet there were maybe 100 billionaires, and now there are 2,000. And I can guarantee you, in another 50 years, there will probably be 20,000. And so there will be more and more billionaires. And it's not just because of inflation, where everybody's money is just going up because they're printing more money. It's not just because of that, but because it's becoming easier and easier to create wealth. You know? Like imagine 200 years ago, could you go out and clean trash cans? No, they didn't even have trash cans. You know, but as more and more people have invented new things, invented new industries, now we have trash cans to be able to clean. Now we have so many more things in the world, so there are so many more opportunities and so many more opportunities to make wealth.
Do you think it's because there's more people?
um, Having more people is a factor, but look at China. Look at India. They have way more people than the United States. However, we are way more prosperous. And so having a number of people is important only if there are entrepreneurs to create businesses and
What's
then
true,
and then customers to serve. But it's like how
and
beneficial
the
is
freedom to
having
do so.
how beneficial is it having a million people that are all lazy, that aren't doing anything? That doesn't go anywhere. But imagine if you had 100 people and all 100 people are going out into the woods and they're like, "Oh man, I'm gonna start making houses for everybody. Oh man, I'm gonna start bringing water here. I'm gonna invent this thing called the light bulb. I'm gonna go." And you have 100 people. These 100 people are going to kill the million people.
Yeah, you're right. That's interesting.
So yeah, I think um, I want to get into summer sales, lessons you learned there, and then your current business uh, of trash cans. Explain a little bit about summer sales. How did that process go? How did you get into it? Kind of tell me a little bit about that.
Well, it's funny. On my mission, I was talking to a comp. It's not good to have favorite comps, but he was my favorite comp.
You
My favorite comp.
heathen.
Well, I know it's bad, but yeah. So he did summer sales before his mission, and he was going to go do summer sales when he got back. And he told me that I should do summer sales, and I was like, "No, man, I'm going to knock doors for God, and that's it. Like, I'm not going to do this again." And it's funny. I got home from my mission, and the business, the headlight business that I ran before my mission, I started managing it again, doing stuff, but it's kind of slow. We lost quite a bit of accounts, and someone offered the owner, who also had the paint shop, um, a good amount of money to buy it. And so he came to me and he was like, "Hey, do you want to buy it from me, or do you think we should sell it to this other guy?" And I was like, "You know what? I don't want to be pinned down to St. George or pinned down to this. You know what? I was like, let's think about it, but I think you should sell it." And then that day, old friend of mine who actually was a missionary that served in my ward when I was in Arizona when I was fixing and selling phones. He reached out to me and he was like, "Hey, like, how are things going with your job? Would you consider doing summer sales?" And I was like, "Dang, same day, same exact day. My boss had told me someone had offered him money to buy the business, and I got offered another job." So then I went back to I told my friend, I was like, "You know what?" I was like, "I'm like 90% in. Give me 3 days, and then I'll tell you if I'm 100%." And I went and talked to my boss, and I was like, "Hey, look, I've got the opportunity to go do summer sales. This would, you know, broaden my ability for everything that I want to do in life. You know, even if I want to take this headlight business and grow it somewhere else, like sales will be a great tool to have in my tool belt. So he was like, "Yeah, go do it." He was like, "You'll learn a ton." He was like, "I did it selling like alarm systems when I was younger," and he was like, "You'll learn so much. It's great." And so I told him I'm in, and then 3 weeks later, I drove out to Seattle, Washington. And here in southern Utah, it's nice and warm. I'd just gone swimming the weekend before, and I got there and it was like snowing and hailing on me. And I was like, what the heck did I get myself into? It was crazy.
Wow.
Yeah, so I got out there. I was excited. I and my goal, like a lot of the people, their goal was to make a lot of money, and my goal was just to learn how to sell. Regardless of how much money I made, that didn't matter to me. My goal was to perfect the art of sales, so I could go use it somewhere else. So then my joy and my happiness and motivation and confidence didn't come off, you know, of whether I sold the person or not, because that's an easy thing to do. You base your value on whether you get a sell or not. And so if you don't, then your motivation drops and your confidence drops, and then your sales drop. And so I went out there, just excited to make it happen. And we had 3 weeks of preseason, and I ended as the number 1 rookie of the preseason. And like I barely beat the other guy by like $1,000 or something like that. I was like, holy cow, like this is sweet. I have a shot to be the number 1 rookie. Like I'm starting out just as better than everybody else. Like if I keep the same work ethic as everyone else, then like I've got the natural skill, and if I perfect the science behind it and work my butt off, I will, be the number 1. So that was one of my goals. And then things happened, and I started to base my value and my worth off of being the number 1 rookie. And I watched the stats, and it was a good motivator at first. Well, I stayed in the number 1 place or close to it. But then the guy that I just barely beaten started to pull ahead. Like he was selling 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 sales a day when I was barely getting like 1 to 3. And then I had a stretch of 6 days, 5 days, 5 or 6 days where I didn't have a single sale. And I was like, what the heck? Like that's terrible. That's like really bad. And he was like killing it while I was like failing. It was raining and cold, and I was like, man, like shoot, what am I doing wrong? Like I'm knocking all day, knocking 200, 250 doors, and just not making a sale. Like no one wanted to buy. And um, I got 1 sale, so I broke the streak. And then I went for the family reunion on the 4th of July. And then I went there. The family reunion was super fun. And I came back, and I was $20,000 behind the number 1 rookie, and $10,000 behind the number 2 rookie, and I was the number 3 rookie. And we only had like 2 months left of the season, a month and a half, 2 months, something like that. And the odds of me being able to beat him like weren't very high, but I went in it like I was gonna make it happen.
Just to give perspective, how many sales would you need to get in order to even tie him at 20,000 behind?
So the smallest sell I could offer was like a $580 contract. So I would have to sell um, almost like 80 minis, probably like 60, 70 mini sells, and him not sell any.
Yeah. And you were getting, how many days would that usually take you? Like if were you getting 1 sale a day? I know you had a stretch where you weren't.
Yeah, I would get 1 to 3 in a good week. I averaged 2 sales a day.
Okay. So it would basically, if you had to get 60, it would basically take you like 30 days of
Yeah,
him doing nothing.
yeah.
Wow.
And so I realized that I'm sales doing minis because that's what I've done a lot of. I wouldn't make it. So I started upping my contract value because they gave you a lot of flexibility on that. And so I I up my contract value instead of just offering the minimum price or dropping price. Just sticking to my guns and being like, you know what, this is worth it. You should pay this much for it.
Hmm.
And um, my first week back, I I only worked 4 days that week, but it was my best week of the summer in 4 days instead of the 6 days that I normally worked. And then the next week I beat that, and then the next week I beat that. I don't remember my exact numbers, but I knew 3 weeks in a row
Oh,
I had
wow.
my personal best. And all of a sudden, like when you have it take off, come out of halftime hot, like it
Yeah.
gives you motivation. And it was right as that other guy started to tank. Like he was getting burned out, and getting cocky and confident, had a $20,000 lead. And so in those 3 weeks, I caught the guy that was 10,000 ahead of me and passed him by five. So I was five ahead of him. And the number one guy, Ben Burton, he still had me by like 12 or 13,000. And I caught him and passed him by the end and beat him by 2,000. And it was crazy, but like sometimes it it's out of your control because I kind of needed him to do bad and me to do way better than I'd ever done. And sometimes in life, it's kind of people would want to give up. They're like, you know what, like there's no way I can beat him. I have to do way better than I've done, and he has to do bad. That's out of my control. But I was like, you know what? Either way, I I want to work my butt off. Work as hard as I can, whether I win or not. I just want to know I left everything on the table, and it was cool because we didn't have a hate relationship where we were mad at each other. Whenever one of us had a really good day, we'd like text each other and like congratulate each other, or whenever one of us had a really bad day, the other one would reach out and be like, "Come on, like you got this. You better catch up. You got to give me some motivation. Like stuff like that." And it was cool.
Yeah.
And then there's the other guy. We were the top three. The other guy we both mutually disliked because he like got on the big group chat and called us out in one competition. He was like, like, he did really good, and we bageled that day. We didn't get any sales. And he was like, "Hey, where are you guys at? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5." Like, "Oh shoot, wait, you didn't get a sale today," in front of the whole company. And so we both didn't like it, and that kind of brought us together. We like texted each other. That was the first time we texted. We're like, "Hey, I don't care who wins," because it was a 2 day competition, and we got like our butts kicked the first day. We were like, "I don't care, if you win or I win, doesn't matter. We just gotta take this other guy out." And that's kind of how it ended at the summer too. We were like, you know what? One of us has to be the number one rookie. Like we
Hmm.
both just have to beat this other guy, and kind of built that camaraderie.
That's so cool.
But yeah, it was crazy, and just not giving up. Like that's the biggest thing. Or when you do sit down, like getting up, because sometimes like you'll be exhausted, you won't really be in a great mindset, and you'll sit down, and then like everyone that's like entrepreneur minded or like motivated, you'll have like little kick starts where something in the back of your head is like, dang, you shouldn't be sitting here. You should get up and do that. And when you feel those, like just to take it and run with it. Like to get up and keep going. And when you have the habit of getting up, no matter how tough it is, no matter how many times you get knocked down, then it's not so scary. Things might happen, you might bagel for a few days straight, but you're gonna make a comeback.
Hmm.
And the thing that helped me the most was the confidence process. The thing that I was taught, like they taught me how to be confident, which is something that I'd never learned before. So they broke it down. Well, they explained what most people do. And most people base their confidence off of past achievements. And I still do this sometimes. But it's like, look, I served a mission, I did this, I did that, like, I can do this. But what happens when you hit a bump in the road and you fail or you bagel or whatever happens, then your most recent accomplishment was a fail. So if you're basing your confidence off of your past achievements, then your most recent achievement is a fail. And so you're not very confident. And so you walk into the mirror, look in the mirror and hype yourself up. You're like, I'm the man, I'm the man, I'm the man. And you get all hyped. and then you use that hype and motivation. You get the whole group together, you hype each other up, and then you go out and you get a sale, and you're like, oh yeah, look at, I'm the man. I got this. I can sell anything. And then you go for a while, and then all of a sudden you have a day where no one buys, and you get down on yourself, and the process repeats, and it's not a very fun cycle because you're scared. It's fear based.
Mm.
But if you follow the confidence process, where the first thing is being love based. So whether it's the love of money or the love of your family or something that you just want super bad, then it's love based. But if it's fear based, like, oh, I don't want a bagel today, or I have to get a sale, or if I don't get a sale, I'm not going to be able to pay rent, or I'm not going to be able to buy food. Like, whereas if you change it around, like, oh, you know what? If I get a sale, then I get to go buy, even if it's just Little Caesars, I get to go buy $5 pizza, and then it's love based, just changing that mindset. And then being tenacious, just never giving up. It doesn't matter, like the bulldog analogy. Once you bite down, you just don't give up. Doesn't matter what happens or what comes, you're going to succeed or die trying. And then the last one is just being fanatic about it, just being crazy. Like, you have to be a little bit crazy to go and knock on people's doors, and everything in life that, hasn't been done before or hasn't been done by a lot of people. You have to be a little bit crazy to try something different. But if you're love based and you don't give up and you're a little crazy about it, then you'll get people to follow you. Because people, if you're not crazy about it, if you're not fanatic about it, if you don't believe it, then it's hard to get people to follow you. But if you're just crazy about what you're doing, and people are like, I don't know what I'm doing with my life, but this guy knows what he's doing with his life, so I'm going to follow him. And then if you just follow that process, you will succeed. Because it doesn't matter how many times you get knocked down. It doesn't matter what scary things are right in front of you, because you aren't motivated by fear. But if you're fear based, then the person behind that door will always be scarier than whatever fears are in the future, like paying your rent or something like that. But if it's love based, then you're not controlled by the scary things in front of you.
TLC.
Yep.
Tenacious, loving, crazy.
Yep.
I like that. I like that a lot. When you were doing summer sales, you were in competition with this guy, but you also had a good relationship with the number one guy. You and him were number one, number two. You ended up being number one in the end, so he's really the number two. But I remember reading 7 Habits by Stephen Covey. I don't know if you remember this part where he talks about this company. There was a sales company, and they were doing competitions, and they were saying the top 20 people, I think they had 2,000 salesmen or something like that, and they're like, the top 20 people get to go on vacation to the Bahamas. Well, their sales numbers weren't that good. Well, Stephen Covey came in, he said, why are you doing it like this? Why don't you say, he said, what numbers do you want everyone to hit? And they said, we want them to be at, let's say, $1 million a year. Okay. Yeah, we want everyone to be at $1 million a year. And Stephen Covey, he said, all right, let's say everyone that hits $1 million a year gets to go to the Bahamas. And the next year they did that. You know how many people went to the Bahamas?
How many?
I think he said like 5. It was something like 1,000 people, or it was something way. Whereas the year before, only 20 people hit the $1 million mark, and that's where they were. But then the following year, 1,000 people hit it. And his point was, don't make it competition where they're against each other, but make it so that it's a competition against themselves, and then everyone that gets it, now we're working together. What's your philosophy? I've had contradicting feelings ever since I heard that. I'm like, but I thought competition is good, like competition against each other. How do you take that?
So, like, my opinion is both. Like, I don't believe in the tyranny of the or, like this or that. Like both. Both is
The
so
tyranny
good
of the-
because um, my goal on my whiteboard towards the very end of the summer, I was so brain dead. I was so exhausted. I was barely getting up, and making it happen. I kept my routine, going to the gym and stuff, but I was like dead. But I would write a goal on the whiteboard in the mornings, and my goal was I'd write down beat Ben Burton. That was my goal of the day. I was just gonna beat him today, like especially the last little bit when had almost caught him. I was like, you know what? And once I had caught him, I just had to beat him that day. I was just gonna beat Ben Burton that day, and that was my goal. And because I don't know, there's times where you get so brain dead, so exhausted that you're kind of like an autopilot, like you're barely making it, but you just won't give up, like you're half dead. And so when you're fighting against yourself is half dead, then it's not a very good opponent. But if you're fighting against someone else, and we did that kind of to each other, like we were like, well, if he's out knocking, I don't know, he's on way in another state, like, but if he's out knocking and working, then I can get out and knock and work. And so, but at the same time, we both got to go on the trip. So it wasn't being able to go on a trip or not, but they also had tons of little competitions where whoever wins like top three get a prize or whatever, and that motivates you. So like on the big huge like overall year goal, I think it's or summer goal. I think that's smart to have like a number that you hit. But on
Okay.
the smaller competitions, then that's where
Mm,
you compete with each other because it's
that's
not like
smart.
they get such a big lead that it's an impossible win. Like if someone has like a huge lead on you, then you just give up. But when it's a 1 day competition or a 2 day competition, then you're like, I can outwork everybody for 2 days. Like these guys might be better than me, might be whatever, but I can throw it down. I
What were some yeah, what were some of the prizes that they gave for these smaller competitions?
um all of the above, from Jordans to swag to jackets to speakers to flat screen TVs. There was one big competition. It was like March Madness, but we just called it like the Madness. And the winner of that, who was technically beat everybody out because it was just like that bracket,
Okay.
got a full paid for trip to New York with him and one other person, as well as like, so that was like the number one position. Like the top two people got like huge flat screen TVs. The top four people got brand new iPads, and then it just went down from that. Like it started out with like a shirt. Whoever wins the first competition gets a shirt. Then you get like a hoodie, then a gym bag,
And you
and
got so you would get for each win you would get something.
and the prize just gets bigger every round.
Okay. And for these competitions, I think this matters. Um, would they give it to you? I can't imagine them like holding all these prizes and then giving them to you at the very end. Like, did they give them
No,
the
they mailed them
next
out to you.
day? They would mail them.
Uh huh.
Okay. It wasn't your Robbie who was your what do you call him, leader?
Yeah, my manager.
Your manager. He didn't have the stuff. It was headquarters that was mailing it out.
So yes, and Robbie did his own incentives. Like the
Okay.
speaker was Robbie. My AirPod, not my AirPods, my Apple Watch was Robbie. The iPhone, the brand new iPhone, was Robbie. And he said that for anyone on his team that got in the top 5 rookies of the year, like he would buy them the newest iPhone when it came
Gotcha.
out, and as well as taking a skydiving. That was all done by Robbie. So
Gotcha.
there's company wide competitions, and then we also did
Mm.
cash incentives as well. So like, hey, if like the day was going bad, he'd be like, hey, like the next person to get a sale gets an extra $50 or an extra $20, or like whoever, well, like days like Memorial Weekend, whoever wins, gets 5 sales gets this. Whoever gets 7 sales wins this. Whatever.
Gotcha. Um, so then that brings us into your current business, which came back from summer sales. Tell us a little bit about how you got into being being the trash man. I think
So
that's a compliment. That isn't an insult. You're like the candy. You're like the candy man, but the trash man.
yeah. No, I came back from summer sales and had quite a bit of money. Was excited. Got back on a Saturday and started working at the company that I worked for before didn't end up getting sold. So I started working back there. And was like, now I got some money, maybe I will buy this company. Started doing some research, started to take the steps to buy the business. Um, and then as I ran the numbers, did some more research, I realized that it wasn't a scalable business. Like, sure, there was good money in it, but it was like just buying a job. It's nothing that I could build and then sell, or eventually automate and step away from. And so, and then when I was adding it all up, I wasn't really going to be making a whole lot more than I was when I was just working for somebody else. And I could make a whole lot more money if I just went back and did sales for 4 months. So I was like, you know what, that's not really something I want to get into. And then I started talking to you, and you helped me come to that conclusion as well, running the numbers and everything, because I ran a little bit of the numbers and realized that I wouldn't be making a whole lot more than I was already after paying for the business loan, as well as supplies and the truck. And then it was very seasonal. Like we realized how much of a mess that could be. Whenever it rains, whenever it's windy, it can't really work. And so after I ran the numbers with Addison, I realized that it wasn't a very good business. So we started to look at other business options, and the trash can cleaning came up, and we ran the numbers on that, and it was very profitable, very scalable, and it's not complicated. Anybody can drive a truck and slide a trash can up to the hydraulics and push a button and have it clean it. It's not complicated. Very low liability, just a little bit of a startup cost in equipment, and I had made some money and had some people that were willing to invest in me. So I took the steps and have been making it happen. On the second, so in like 3 days, I'll order all the hydraulic stuff. I already have the truck and the pressure washer, and I'm just waiting on the LLC from the lawyer, and then I'll keep moving forward with all of that. And I found a software that I want to use as well.
Yep. No, I'm really excited. I'm really excited for you. I think it's going to be a really good business opportunity. And just from hearing about all of your experiences from before, from selling phones to when you were a teenager, going from all different jobs that you had, and everywhere that you went, like everybody loved having you. And I remember you telling me about summer sales that they didn't want to lose you either. Nobody wanted to lose you because you're such an asset to them. And so I can't wait to see you put all of those lessons into place with this business right here. I think it's gonna be a really big opportunity for you. With it, what are the biggest fears that you have, and what are you most excited for with this business?
Biggest fears. As of right now, I don't see a lot that could go terribly wrong. I mean, it would suck if I got hit by like a semi and it totaled my truck and all my equipment. That's like, don't jinx it, but that would be uh, the biggest thing that could put a big damper on the business. Another could be like the market just completely crashes, which honestly that wouldn't affect it too much. It would make it harder. That wouldn't make it a no go. I would just have to find richer clients. Because even when the market crashes, like very successful people, their lifestyle doesn't change whether the market's high or the market's low. Like they like when the market crashes because then they can buy real estate or businesses or other things that have all of a sudden dropped price. So it would just be I would have a smaller clients um, for a time, which would definitely put a damper on taking the business and making it huge, getting more locations and stuff. Like it would slow things down. Um, Other than that, I don't have too many fears about it. Like I'm confident in my ability to sell, and I'm also confident in the confidence process. Like I ran the numbers, everything seems really good, and done the homework. And so if I'm love based, tenacious, and crazy, then it's gonna work.
What are you most excited for?
um, I'm excited to be working and growing and selling something that's mine. Like for the last handful of years, um, about 5 years, from working for other people to serving my mission to summer sales. It's all been for someone else. Like it's on my mission, it was for God, it wasn't for me. For everyone that I worked for, it was for their business, and in summer sales, it was for them, for their business. So it'll be cool doing something not only for the money but also for what I'm building. It's going to be mine. Like I'm excited for that, and then also I'm excited for the process, like something new, challenging. Like as frustrating as it is in the moment when things are going south, like the satisfaction of something that has flipped upside down and smashed around but pulled out on top. Like that is the best feeling. If everything went really smooth, then like it feels good, but it doesn't feel as good as if it was a bumpy, crazy ride, but you were able to pull out and make it a success.
Hmm.
I was just working on my car, and at a couple points I was very frustrated. Things weren't working, some things broke, and I just couldn't get this hose disconnected. And I was like, "What the heck?" And it was frustrating. But then once I was done, like it felt so good. But if like the job had been really easy, I'd be like, "Oh, that was great. That was easy." But when something's challenging, even though it's frustrating sometimes, and I'm getting better at enjoying the challenge because I know I
Sure,
like the after effect.
sure.
Like there was a movie I saw, I can't remember which one it was, but the they'd just been ambushed and they were behind enemy lines, and their like army of like 2,000 had been cut down to like 10 guys, and they were like, you know what, like this is over, like this is hopeless. And the other guy was like, no, this is just the material for legends to be made. This is just the formula for legends or something like that. I can't remember
Yeah,
the word. But there's just two ways to look at things, when all hell hits and everything's falling apart. You can look at it like this is hopeless, or look at it like this is the formula to build a legend. And I feel like that outlook and that prospect will have a lot to do with your success or your failure.
hmm I really like that. That outlook. That a lot of it is you're going in to learn, um, learn what you can, learn about business, learn about people, learn about sales, learn more. If I'm getting you right, right? And
Yeah,
then the other part is you're not you're now because you can do that with a job, like not to the same extent, um, but the other part is you want to grow your own asset rather than someone else's asset. So then you can grow this and grow it to a certain point and then automate it. And it's producing money for you regardless whether you work or whether you put in more time or whatever. But let's say you keep on going with it, it's just going to keep on getting more and more valuable versus a job people work in it for 20 years, and at the end, they're making a little bit more money than they did at the very beginning.
Yeah, but then the business throws you to the curb. You're retired. Whatever. Very few businesses offer good retirement anymore.
Sure, but even if you got a good retirement, it's not like
It cuts your
you're
paycheck.
that is yeah, it's not like you're that much uh, greater off. Whereas you starting this business, you're going to be a lot greater off. Two questions for you. One, do you have a sales script? What are you doing there?
I do.
You want to pitch it to me?
Sure, I don't have it memorized quite yet.
Okay.
Let me pull it up.
Okay. I want to hear this. I want to hear the sales script. I'm excited for it.
Yeah, do you want me to? This is just a rough draft. It's not
Okay.
been completed.
That's cool.
Um,
You're gonna
but
sell. You're gonna sell probably 10 people just on this interview. We'll
yeah,
send them to your website.
sounds good. So here, let me pull you up. There we go. So and he's like, "Hey, how's it going?" And then they respond.
Hey,
They're like,
going good.
"It's good. My name is Vance, and I'm out here in the neighborhood growing my trash can cleaning business." Um, and then like you ask a question like, "Your trash cans get emptied on Friday, just like everyone else's, right?"
Yeah, on Fridays, I think.
Awesome. Yeah. So the three main reasons why people have been using my service is number one, it's always hot in St. George, and
Mhm.
things always smell worse when they get warm, especially when it's like rotten old stuff, especially or if you put the grass in there, after one day, it just smells terrible, right? So that's
Mm.
the number one reason. The second reason is um, no one likes to take out the trash. Like, no one likes to take out the trash, and when the trash can stinks, then there's, like, another reason not to take it out. But just think about it, if your trash can smelled like roses when you went out there, I bet you your husband, you'd be like, "Hey, can you take out the trash?" And he'd just, like, jump for joy. He'll grab the trash and be like, "Yeah, I love taking the trash out." But, when it smells out there and it stinks, then, like and he just doesn't wanna do it. So, I'll make your husband happy. This can be his birthday present. I believe I'll be pitching the wives more than the husbands.
Yeah, sure.
Um, and then, like, let's be honest, the trash can is probably the dirtiest thing in your house, like on your property that you own. And how often does it get cleaned? Like, I don't know about you, but probably like never. And even if you do get the hose, and have, your husband or your kids clean it out, you're spreading all of those germs and diseases and smells all over the road or the driveway. So it's kind of like a lose even when you clean it because it doesn't go away. It's like Dr. Seuss in the spot on the wall, it just spreads it. So what I've done is I've invested a little bit in some equipment that I bought a pressure washer that's heated and it gets up to 170 degrees. So it will actually kill the diseases and the smells. And I have a wash bay that I'll hook the trash can up to and flip it upside down. So all of the water and all the germs and stuff will be contained in that and then filtered out. And I keep the water in my truck. So it's not like it's going to run down your driveway or get on the road and spread all those germs and start COVID over again, right? um, so, shoot, I was just doing all that on the fly. Let me go back to where we were
That was
at.
freaking good.
Thanks. Um, Trying to remember what the third reason was.
What was it different than the third reason you just told me?
Yeah, because I made that up because I couldn't remember the third reason.
I was like, that's smart putting that in order.
Yeah, so I came up with that third one earlier today because I was writing out a different sales pitch as I was thinking about what I would do.
Yeah.
But this is like an old complete one. I just like wrote out a new section right there. And then I go into the process. I'd be like, all right, so let me show you what I'll do exactly. And with um, the sales app that I'm looking at getting, I can like have a bunch of like videos and pictures of the stuff. So I'd actually show a quick little video of what I would do, and then I would go into price. So I'd be like, so we're doing a huge like because I have, so hopefully I'll get more people. At the very beginning, it's kind of tough, but once you have a couple people in the neighborhood, I'll be like, so taking care of John and so and so, and if I can get you on the same route as them, then I'm doing a big discount, and then I'd go into price. I'm doing it super cheap. It's only $20 a can, and I come monthly or bi-monthly, and then we go into process. And then at that point, it's not quite as much sales. Like all the other party already built a relationship. You're just
Sure.
showing them the numbers, and you're like,
Gotcha.
which one do you want? Do you want the monthly or the bi-monthly? And
Gotcha.
so the pricing. And then once they choose that one, you're like, okay, awesome. What did you say your first name was? Or if you're like, if you know their first name, they're like, what did you say your last name was? And then you just start filling out the billing information.
Gotcha. Um, yeah, that's a really good script. So this is the first. Is this the first script you've written out personally?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's really good.
thanks.
How similar is it to the pest control script?
So the idea behind it's using some of the same ideas, but not exactly. Because like with pest control, um, you're like, yeah, it's mainly been the ants and the wasps, and everybody's been getting the spiders, right? So you just choose like three things. So that I kind of copied, like the main three reasons are these that people have been using us. Um, the referring about neighbors, like, look, we're taking care of John and Linda and so and so. Like, if I can get you done on the route, and I'm doing it for super cheap, dropping, price or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, and then trying to think of anything else that I've copied from that. And then just making the jokes and stuff about coke and all of that. Like that's just something you do on the fly. Like that's
Yeah.
not exactly like none of that was in the script. I was just making that up, you know. And talking about their husband. You just play it on the person. Like some people, like they're very happy and joking and laughing and you do all that. And some people, they're just serious,
Yeah.
So if it's a serious person, then you just go into the facts. Like you're like, look, this is why people have been doing it. Like it's nasty, it stinks. Like this is my process. This is why you'll like it. And you don't use the joke and stuff. It's just you give them the hard facts and then they make a choice.
Gotcha. Um,
But
no,
go
I was just gonna say, um, so with more serious people, you're keeping it more logical. With more fun, bubbly people, you're making jokes, you're getting them like I was laughing, and I don't even have a trash can.
ahead.
So, I think that's yeah. It sounds really good. What are your goals for the first 6 months, year, couple of years? What are some of those goals that you have that would determine whether your business is successful?
Um, my first goal is a 15-day goal. I'd like, because I have to pay for the software, they give me a 14-day free trial.
Awesome.
And with all the setup fee and everything, it's about 2000 for the year.
Okay.
And so I would like to pay for that completely out of the business, like money that had been made from the business, not my personal money. So that's my first goal. Because then it's kind of getting into the habit of taking care of itself and not putting more money into it. Um, in 6 months, I would like to upgrade my sales software because there's a basic version that's just for one person, and like to have at least three salesmen
Mm,
as well. Um, and then I would like to be making at least 5 sales a day, and I'd like that to be the average for all my reps as well. And then um, can't remember the numbers exactly. I don't have them in front of me, but I'd like to by the end of the summer, I would like to have over 1,000 customers and get another truck. Because when I reach 1,000 subscribers, then I'll get another truck. And so by the end of the year, I'd like to have 3 trucks and 2,000 subscribers. That would be ideal. And I'd be making. Let's see. Let me grab a calculator. I'd be making about 40,000 a month.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really good. I was gonna ask you about that if the software that you got tracks commission, which it does.
Yeah,
So
it can.
the next version up.
Yeah, the next version up. Yeah.
That's sweet. That's gonna be a big relief because that's something that we've been talking about is making sure you're setting up the business so that it's automated as much as possible, and so having um, the software is a big part of it. Having the truck is a big part of it. It's going to make your life a lot easier. I think the last part is duplicating yourself. That's something that so many business owners struggle to do. They always end up doing the work rather than hiring people to do the work. How are you going to duplicate yourself as a salesman? Are you concerned about that at all, or are you like that's going to be easy?
No, not really. Just because you start with a handful of salesmen that if they know what they're doing, great. If they don't know anything about sales, great. And you just, at least from what I've seen in other sales companies, what I did for the summer, is you kind of groom someone to replace you. That was their business model. So you go, you build a team, you come out, you go out with a team, and then the next year you bring 3 to 5 to 10 people out, and you're a co-manager with your main manager, and then um, your third year you go out and you're your main manager, and you have someone else you brought out with you at first that brings out 2 or 3 to 5 or 10 guys, and they're a co-manager with you, and then you slowly just spread out, and you make a small commission on everyone that you've recruited.
Mm,
So I feel like it would be the same thing. Um, I'm not exactly sure how it will work because I'll have to. Right now, I'm just going to be doing it like monthly subscriptions, a minimum of 3 services. Um, but if I have a big sales team, it would have to be annuals. Um, or it doesn't have to be. Like if they want, I might keep the option of monthlies, but the salesman would just get paid after each month. So it's riskier for the salesman. But I mean, if they want to do it, it's their choice. But selling annuals would be a lot more successful. Like it guarantees your revenue. Whereas
sure.
if you just sell monthlies, you never know if they're going to cancel halfway through.
For sure. When and you'll find out a bunch of this stuff as you start making sales. You start going door to door. That's gonna be really exciting. An
Yeah,
exciting business. Well, I appreciate you talking with me about your past. Like that was really interesting. I didn't know all that stuff about like going into the nitty gritty on selling phones. I didn't know you worked with Connor and Mandy either.
yeah,
At a warehouse, you said, at a factory.
yeah. It was paparazzi jewelry. We put
What?
jewelry in boxes and shipped them out. My friend Brooklyn, I got her a job there too. It was her first job.
Okay.
It was
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah.
It was like 4 to 11 p.m.
What? That's so cool.
It was
You're
crazy.
just chilling there together. Um, no, I appreciate you coming on, and also just sharing the wisdom with myself and with other people that are listening. So yeah, I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Addison. It was fun to get on and talk and verbalize my sales pitch to somebody. Hadn't done that quite yet. So that was fun.
Anytime you need to practice, I'm just a phone call away.
All right. It's a deal.
Okay. Well, I appreciate it, Vance. We'll see you around, man.
Sounds good. Thank you, Addison.
Okay. See ya.